Big doings on the Sports Show. This is the Sports Show with Mark Kiszla and Woody Paige and everyone else. And the way you can get involved is to tweet us at the Sports Show. Go to our Facebook page, the Sports Show, or you can even Skype us at _sports_show. And we've got a lot going on, a lot to talk about today, a lot to get shoved in an hour. And Troy Rink is going to join us from Dove Valley in just a few minutes. I guess I don't. Maybe the Broncos don't like me because I don't refer to it by the name they put on, but it is Dove Valley. They haven't changed the name of the valley. They just changed the name.
Valley is still there.
Yes. Mark Kiszla, what is our big stuff today?
Well, we're getting pretty close to that national championship game in college football, and can Clemson compete? It's Wildcard weekend. That's what everybody in Denver is really concerned about. And Demaryius Thomas set some records this year, but is he really worth $70 million?
That's good that we're going to readdress that. We've done that a number of times during the course of the season, and we've sort of pushed aside, I thought, the national championship game. There's too much time between the two of them because we've kind of forgotten. They played them on the wrong day.
Yeah, so played on New Year's Eve, and that was a mistake.
And so they go almost 2 weeks without playing, and the NFL can get away with that. But it's sort of been kind of pushed under the rug while we were talking about the NFL, and I just think that to make a comment, I just think they need to play it like a week afterward or push back. You know, in the muddle of all those bowl games, if you're going to take off 30 days anyway, you might as well take off 35 days. There's something wrong with that system. Does Clemson even stand a chance against Nick Saban and the best defense in the country? Let's face that. And are the Tigers being underappreciated, overlooked?
Yes, they are. They definitely are. Alabama's, depending on what sports book you talk to, is a 6.5 to 7 point favorite. They're basically a touchdown favorite. On SEC reputation, they deserve that. But Clemson is going to win this game, and I feel confident saying that. Alabama's defensive line is dominant. Alabama's offense is not dominant. I think I feel good in saying this. I will tell you this, Mr. Tennessee Vol. Deshaun Watson, Clemson's quarterback, running the football will be a problem for the Alabama defense. And I'm guessing you watched Tennessee play Alabama this season. It was a very good game. It was a fourth quarter game. Alabama was fortunate to win that game. And part of the reason was Tennessee had a quarterback that could hurt Alabama with his legs.
First, before I disagree with you, which I totally do, I think Alabama's going to win the national championship. Let me add fuel to your fire. Ole Miss beat Alabama, and Ole Miss had a good running quarterback too. Had a good passing game. Had some tricks that actually won the game at the end. A quarterback rolled out and he pulled up and threw it over the Alabama defenders. Clemson, I think, is being overlooked and underappreciated because they're going. ACC is still not considered as strong as the SEC, even though Florida State has won a national championships. I don't know why you would undervalue the ACC, but let me now take the other side. Deshaun Watson, as I said, he was number 3 in the Heisman Trophy and was a legitimate candidate all year long.
He's the best player on the field. Sorry, Derrick Henry, but he is.
Yeah, although Derrick Henry beat him out, Christian McCaffrey beat him out. Let me take the other side. The SEC last year and the year before that was not overall very impressive. Lost a lot of bowl games. This year, they're in a position with Alabama, if it were to win this game, to set a record all time. Now, they're 40 bowl games, but no conference has ever won 9 games, and we both know why the SEC is in so many bowls, because they're played in the Southeast. And so those cities like Memphis and Mobile and whatever other city, all the Florida cities that have bowls want teams that will draw, and they can draw from the SEC. But I think the SEC is stronger overall than even last year when they had 5 or 6 teams that were in the top 25. They had a bunch this year early before upsets started happening. I think Alabama's defense, I will agree with you, Lane Kiffin is not a mastermind as an offensive coordinator. He's a good buddy of Nick Saban's, but I haven't seen a lot of creativity out of the Alabama offense all year long. I think since they lost McIntyre, they really haven't had a great offensive coordinator. On the other side, though, I think that is such a dominant defense. 2 years ago, Ohio State, if I remember, 2 years ago, Ohio State upset Alabama. Isn't that what happened 2 years ago in the national championship game? Seems to me it did. I'll just go with that. That it could happen. It can happen because Alabama was a prohibitive favorite in the game that it lost for the national championship. However, having said all that, I think a dominant defense wins a national championship. I don't know that remember that Alabama-Auburn game? You and I both were in Kansas City? Mm-hmm. I think they will stop Clemson dead on offense, and they will score just enough, and this will be one of those boring national championship games that'll be something like 13-6.
I do think it's going to be low scoring, and just to remind you how non-dominant the SEC was last year, Alabama got beat by Ohio State in the semifinals, not the finals.
That's what I was referring to. When you get to be my age, you'll find out that sometimes you Well, do you think though that having picked Clemson to win this game, we'll know on Monday. Clemson has been in class all week and hasn't had to travel 2 time zones yet this year. Alabama's hadn't been in class. I don't know. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah. Come on, Tennessee guy.
Been in class all year.
Don't let your orange bias show through there.
The fact that Clemson is still having to go to class and having to travel 2 time zones, Alabama only won. Will that make a difference in the game?
You brought up 2 points.
It's a light game. Keep that in mind.
You brought up 2 points. I do think traveling 2 time zones makes a difference. The farther you get away from home, the more of a road game it is. But I actually believe that Clemson being in class helps Clemson, because you stay with your regular routine. You don't make it bigger than it is. You don't make it different than it is. You don't make it the sole focus of your life. You get up, you have breakfast, you go to class, or you don't go to class, as is the case with many college students, and then you go to practice. I like keeping in the regular season routine rather than the Alabama fellas who have nothing to do except football practice. The rest of the time, what are they doing? Playing video games?
The title sponsor of today's show and of this segment, John Elway Cadillac of Park Meadows, and it's Colorado's #1 Cadillac dealership.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Sports Show, Woody Paige, Mark Kiszla. We're going to have our picks for Wildcard Weekend later in the show, so stay tuned. Right now, however, we got Wildcard Weekend questions. Steelers running back D'Angelo Williams is out for the playoff game. Does this change the Steelers' chances of going into Cincinnati and winning this division rivalry game?
Mark Kiszla, listen very carefully to someone who's old enough to be your father. I'm gonna tell you something that D'Angelo Williams, the latest I've seen, could play in the game.
Okay.
We don't think he's going to play. That would leave them with 2 running backs that have carried maybe the total of 20 times this year. That's not a good sign for the Steelers. However, I'm going to tell you, I think that's almost the best thing that could happen to the Steelers.
How so, Dad?
Roethlisberger will throw the ball 40 times or so. He's got the best receiving core overall in the NFL, I think. When you talk about Wheaton and Bryant, who's called out by Roethlisberger, make the tough play, and in Antonio Brown, who I thought and will be an MVP vote getter. Mm-hmm. He won't win the MVP, but I think you could make a realistic case that he was the best wide receiver in the league this year. That you had the guy in New York that made great circus catches, but Antonio Brown, you and I saw him in Pittsburgh. Here's what I'm going to tell you that I want you to actually write down with your pen. When the Steelers use 4 or 5 receivers, we throw in Heath Miller.
Okay.
They are the most successful team in the league.
This is according to your film study?
They complete almost 67, 68 passes of from a 4-receiver or 5-receiver set. On the other side, the Bengals, when they face a 4 or 5-receiver set, are tied for the worst team in the entire NFL.
That's the hammer.
So, if you're forced into passing, now, do the Bengals make enough of an adjustment? Well, we saw both these teams. Mm-hmm. I didn't much care for the Steelers secondary, but I also didn't care much at all about the Bengals. They have great pass rushers, but if you can hold off the pass rushers, you can beat the Bengals secondary, and I just gave you not specific stats, but enough generalization about it to say, yes, it changes the Steelers, but as they said in Wicked, it changes them for the good.
Okay. I tend to agree with you, but I love the Steelers. When you get into that division rivalry, the two teams that really don't like each other, I don't know if the analysis counts as much as the emotion. And so this is what I'm struggling with. Cincinnati, a city that hasn't won a playoff game in 25 years. Is that get that stadium all fired up, or does that get that stadium in a state of like, oh, we can't win because we're losers? And if that stadium's rocking and rolling, I think Cincinnati has a real chance. If that stadium's apprehensive, I think the team will be apprehensive. I think Marvin Lewis will be apprehensive.
Well, you would agree with this that Cincinnati is not a great home field advantage. I mean,
I love the stadium, but it's not a great home field advantage.
They play poorly at night.
Yeah.
Historically, under Andy Dalton, we know that McCarron's going to start, but he has failed against the Broncos at night. They're like 4-12 on Monday Night TV over the last 3 years. Do you know that if Marvin Lewis loses this game, he'll become the first coach in the entire NFL history to go in the postseason 0-7? He's tied for the world. Marvin Lewis hadn't proven he could win in the postseason. Andy Dalton didn't prove he could win in the postseason. McCarron hasn't played in the postseason. You can talk about the state of the stadium. Apprehension might be the right thing to say there.
Everybody in Denver, almost everybody I talk to says, let's hope the Broncos play the Texans. Should it be careful what we wish for?
No.
Okay, well, that covers that.
No, the Texans have a great secondary. That's kind of forgotten because of J.J. Watt. He lines up like Carl Mecklenburg used to. All over the field. And Crennel is the defensive coordinator now. He uses Watt very effectively. You don't know where he's coming from. Having said that, Brian Hoyer, as long as he's a quarterback, as long as they're not playing indoors at home, and they're coming to Denver, really, they had 4 different quarterbacks win games this year. This is not a settled position. Brian Hoyer has a bad record as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I just think that would be my choice of all the teams, and there are 3, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Texans. Of those 3, that's the least scary. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a runaway game because J.J. Watt is a one-man wrecking group.
J.J. Watt could wreck Peyton Manning's playoffs in the first quarter. But I will say this. I'm not scared about the Broncos playing the Texans or the Steelers. I would be very, very scared if it was the Chiefs.
This segment brought to you by John Elway, Cadillac of Park Meadows, Colorado's #1 volume Cadillac dealership.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Is a lack of intimacy at home starting to affect your performance on the course? There are many factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol that may be contributing to your erectile dysfunction. Get back in the game with one visit to Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, offering same-day solutions for all erectile dysfunction and premature issues. And you get to try the medications containing FDA ingredients right in their office. Let the providers at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic help you get your confidence back. And be sure to ask about the $99 limited time special. Call today.
You and I have criticized Demaryius Thomas a lot this year. Mark Kiszla, based on his year, he became one of only 3 players in NFL history to have 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons.
That's laudable.
He has, in looking at it last night, he's in a position to become the 3rd all-time leading receiver in terms of number of catches, yardage. He's got 699 yards in the postseason. He is one of their best postseason. We know that he had the catch and run against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Have we been too critical of him and his drops? He was among the leaders in drops this year. So was Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall was considered he made the All-Pro team according to Pro Football Focus. Is he now more so than we thought earlier worth the $70 million?
I don't think he's worth the $70 million. I never thought he was worth the $70 million. I still don't think he's worth the $70 million. But I agree with you here. I agree with your premise here. That how I've looked at Demaryius Thomas's season maybe has been too influenced about the money, rather than what he's actually done on the field. But I think remove the money. Take the $70 million away. Are you confident, am I confident, that Demaryius Thomas can lead this offense to the Super Bowl? I don't think he has that kind of personality, and I'm not sure that at the position of wide receiver you can truly do that.
He's a captain, and he has not exposed himself as a captain of this team. He's not a leader of the team. So will he lead them? No. But he did in the last game have that great catch, a good catch early. Not the catch, but the run after the catch.
Right.
Made a swirl move and ended up scoring I think the second longest touchdown of the year. I think we judge people, and I think that's perfectly right. We judge people based on what they make. I know this, that my daughter is in a computer, a very advanced specialty computer school, and they told her after the first segment, we're going to judge you harsher than we do everybody else because you're, and I'm speaking up for my daughter at this point, we're going to judge you harsher because you are the best student we have in this class.
Okay.
And so that kind of hit me. I'm going to take another side on the $70 million. You and I have talked about they should have franchised him. Well, they'd be caught in a trap. They'd be caught in a trap this coming season because they're going to have to franchise Von Miller. So you couldn't have franchised him twice. You would have had to have paid him off. And based on 4 consecutive years of over 1,000 yards a season, more than 100 catches for 3 of those years, I think, you'd have had to pay him the money this year somehow, or let him or Von Miller go. We've got Troy Rink joining us via the phone from Dove Valley. Hello, Troy. Another busy day for you out at Broncos headquarters.
Yeah, never boring out here, man. So good to be here, guys. I enjoy your discussion. It is an interesting one on Demaryius, no doubt.
Well, do we judge him harsher? I'm going to bring you into that. Do we judge him appropriately because he got the $70 million contract? I mean, when you look at it overall, he was not Pro Football Focus. I think had him as honorable mention wide receiver. He didn't make the Pro Bowl. Did he have a great year, or was it a year of underachieving?
It's a good year. It was inconsistent, and they were paying him to be a superstar, which, let's be honest, he embraced those expectations when he received the contract. He said he was going to be more of a vocal leader, that he was going to break Calvin Johnson's single-season record. I don't think he totally appreciated the offense he was going to be in this year when he said that, but nonetheless, he brought that on himself, and by those standards, he didn't have a bad season. He just didn't meet expectations. He set the bar really high, and most guys would take his numbers when you look at it, but they needed better. And he still has time, though. He played one of his best games against the Chargers. A strong finish will allow people to forget some of those drops earlier in the year. But he needs to be an elite player in the playoffs. He can't just be a guy.
Gary Kubiak named Peyton Manning the starter for the playoffs this week. What was the reaction in that locker room? Do you think the players were very excited about that? Do you think they cared one way or the other? What impact did that have on the other guys in that room?
They expected it, Kiz, based on the way he finished against the Chargers. And again, it is interesting, and you guys have been, done this longer than I have. In the locker room, It is a really, what have you done for us lately business, and Manning finished well. And they also view players' reputation way more than we do. Like, you, as that outside looking in, we say, Peyton did not have a good year by any statistical measure. They remember the Peyton of 13, of early 14. And I've had guys tell me that the last thing they wanted was to lose in the playoffs with Peyton Manning standing on the sideline as a healthy backup. They would rather go down swinging with him. And that's not a disrespect to Brock. Don't take it that way. It's just they would have a hard time reconciling how can this guy not play in the playoffs and he's just standing there. And so it went over fine in the locker room. And a lot of guys, frankly, kids rationalize Peyton's plays by injury. They don't see it as a guy who struggled as much as a guy who was hurt and now he's healthy. And whether that's being too simplistic, we'll see. But they don't see it as, oh, no, here comes a guy who couldn't stop throwing picks. They see it as a guy who's a 5-time NFL MVP who was hurt, now he's healthy.
Yeah. He's lost 13 playoff games, but he's also won 11 playoff games. 9 one and done. So that really is going to always stick him. I mean, people talk about the charges that have come up lately by a report, but I think it's always going to be all those one and dones. I believe the edge should have gone to Peyton Manning, but I also believe that if the Broncos are going to get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be about their defense. Troy, 2 years ago, and you covered that game in New York, they were missing 7 or 8 starters. Chris Harris comes to mind, for instance. Are they going to be in shape defensively? They wanted to get healthy. Are they going to get healthy enough for the playoffs defensively?
They'll be close. Demaryius Ware told us today that he expects to play, that he will play. So this knee injury is a concern. I'm not sure how much and how effective he can be. Is that 30, 35 plays? I don't know. That would be a concern given his age and what can he actually do. Darian Stewart saw a specialist for his hamstring. It's not as bad as it was when he missed the Pittsburgh game. Again, I don't think he'll be fully healthy. Will he be 80%? Probably. Chris Harris is going to be fine. He's going to play in pain in his left shoulder, but as injuries go for a defensive back, it's not the worst injury. They're not going to answer your question, Wade, they're not going to be fully healthy. They need Brandon Marshall with that ankle. He's really going to benefit from this week off. They need him close to healthy, and they need Darian Stewart close to healthy. They can survive another week without Demaryius Ware being fully healthy because of Shaq Barrett. But their secondary is their greatest strength. They need that unit to be right. And if Darian Stewart's not out there or Chris Harris is compromised, that's a bad omen for them, especially if they play the Steelers.
A year ago, it became a story that the Broncos didn't want to play the Patriots. Is there one team in this AFC playoff field that you think those players fear? And is there one team in the playoff field that they say, yeah, bring them on so we can chop them up in our first playoff game?
It's a great question. There's nobody they absolutely fear. The makeup of this team is entirely different. You're not wrong in saying that there weren't a bunch of guys lining up looking forward to going to New England, and that was part of the reason why they lost, is they just saw themselves as having no chance of winning in New England. There's no team in the AFC that is clearly dominant. It is, you could pick any team other than perhaps the Texans and make an argument they'll make the Super Bowl. So they don't fear anyone. I do think they would like to, if they had their way, they would like to knock out either the Chiefs and then followed by the Steelers, teams that have beaten them most recently. Chiefs are a division rival. You'd like to see them. There's familiarity. That's a tough matchup with the Chiefs defense, but the Chiefs don't scare anyone because their offense doesn't score points. The Steelers scare you because of Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. And Brown's the best player I've seen all year live. I haven't seen a player better than him. I didn't see Beckham this year, obviously in person, but Antonio Brown, for me, is the best player in the NFL this year.
Oh,
that's the guy that scares you.
Yeah, I
don't fear anybody.
Yeah, I thought Antonio Brown actually should be the MVP. I think he's the greatest receiver in the league, and I thought he had the biggest impact. I mean, he was close to setting the all-time record for receptions and yardage. If he'd had another 4 or 5, I think in the final game, he would have had a chance at that. So I would add that. Final question I have for the two of you. You've been out, both of you been out there all week. Is Brock Osweiler hurt more than they're letting on?
I talked to Brock today. He sprained his knee on that second interception. Melvin Ingram, when he knocked the ball, kind of knocked into his arm, he fell into him. He hurt his knee there. And Brock's a tough guy. I mean, not unlike Manning. Brock isn't about to tell the trainers, hey, because I asked, hey, was that why you got taken out? And he said, absolutely not. And I said, well, why do you think that? He said, because no one knew. No one asked me, and I didn't say anything. It wasn't until Monday, where it wasn't getting better, that they realized, hey, we got to have this looked at. It's a knee sprain. Do I think if he were the man and could he have played? I don't know about this week. That would have been a push, but he certainly would be ready for next week. Is it a little worse than letting on? It's arguable. Again, now that he's the backup, it's easy to make the argument they're not. But if they had to play this week, I think they would have lost just due to injury, especially on the defensive side.
Yeah. We should add to that, if you add them up, he had a left shoulder injury. He had a chest kind of bruise, I think, in one game, a knee sprain. Peyton had the foot problem. He had an arm problem. That offensive line, I mean, going into the playoffs, that offensive line, I'm going somewhere with this, Troy. I just read a story this morning that said the Denver Broncos offensive line finally, against the San Diego Chargers, and we know what the Chargers were, that the offensive line finally seemed to be coming together. Would you agree with that assessment?
No, because it's inconsistent. They came together that day, and I saw them play well at Cleveland. I saw them do good things at times. They've just, like the offense itself, they've been wildly inconsistent. So to say yes to that, I can't agree with that assessment. But the fact that they ran for 200-plus yards, that's encouraging, but it's never really meant something. It hasn't taken root. So if it does, then they prove me wrong. I like the idea of going with Columbus at right tackle. He's a good run blocker, and he can find ways as a veteran to save himself. He's not going to get crushed in a blitz like Schofield has been. You know, he may just hold the guy and eat it, but you're not going to see the blindside hits that Schofield was giving up. But they're a work in progress, and there's no more time left. So can they just string together 3 decent games? Maybe. I mean, we've seen the Ravens did it where they completely redid their line in what was that, the 2013-12 season, 13 Super Bowl. They redid their whole line before the playoffs.
Well,
got there. So it's
a little late, though, for the Broncos.
They're inconsistent, Woody. They're wildly inconsistent.
Thank you, Troy. I'll add that same story I read said that Schofield was the worst starting player he had ever seen in his history of covering the National Football League. And I mean, that's bringing in a lot of players. So that's kind of sad. Troy Rink, enjoy. I know you're not going to be able to enjoy the weekend, but enjoy watching some of the Wildcard games.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Take care.
We'll talk to you early next week. This segment with Troy Rink brought to you by John Elway, Cadillac of Park Meadows, Colorado's #1 Cadillac dealer.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
For our Players' Choice pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one, I can work out like one, I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza.
Better football.
At thenewpapajohns.com.
This is a sports show presented by the Denver Post, and today John Elway Cadillac, Mark Kiszla, Woody Paige, the finalist for the NFL Hall of Fame, who will go to the day before, having been on the committee, the day before the Super Bowl. That will be determined. There'll be 5 at most, maximum 5 players, 1 contributor. That's a rather new category.
Okay.
And 2 senior players will be voted on. The Broncos have 3 finalists. Steve Atwater, who's getting more and more attention as he gets closer to being off the list. Terrell Davis is back up there again. There's going to be the debate about the length of his career. And number 3, John Lynch, who spent a majority of his career with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Who has the best chance? Who's going to get in of those three, if any?
I think John Lynch has the best chance this season. I think John Lynch has only had to wait his time while other people get voted in. I think John Lynch is highly popular as a person and a player, and every vote is a popularity
commentator.
And a commentator. Every vote of every sort is a popularity contest, and he wins the popularity contest.
I would totally disagree with you. Having sat in that room for 15 years, that I never considered it, because I mentioned to you the other day, Lawrence Taylor got in. There was a player for a linebacker for the New York Giants said, I don't want to be in anymore. We didn't even consider, he called us fat and old and drunks and slugs and everything else. And I said, I'm not a drunk.
That was all. There you go.
So
he was 90% right.
I don't think popularity enters into it at all, having been in that room. I think John Lynch does have the best chance. I don't think he's as good as Steve Atwater. Steve Atwater was one of the two best safeties I've ever been around. The other one was Dennis Smith, and he never got a sniff for it. But Steve Atwater was the biggest hitter at safety. He was a great player. He's a pro player, played on Super Bowl losing teams. I think that hurt him. I think that Terrell Davis, that is going to be an ongoing argument that's not going to be, it could be settled this year. I looked at the list, and other than Brett Favre, there's a good chance for some guys to get in. Terrell Owens is not going to get in this year, the first year on the ballot. I think now that they've moved the contributors off to the side, Tony Dungy, I think, is going to get in this year because people have decided he's not going to play anymore. I think he's been on a borderline. Is there someone that they're missing from the Broncos?
No.
The Broncos have fewer people than most teams.
No, you can go with Randy Gradishar, and he deserves to be in, but that boat has sailed. So other than that, no. Rod Smith is a great wide receiver. He doesn't belong in. I mean, he doesn't make the cut. And
Rod Smith has a lot of great numbers if you look among wide receivers.
Carl Mecklenburg, sorry.
Yeah, the problem with Rod Smith is there's a bank of wide receivers that are still ahead of him.
And they're better than him.
I saw that he was voted among the top 10 greatest non-drafted players ever played in the NFL.
Oh, so there's undrafted free agent Hall of Fame. He's in it.
Carl Mecklenburg, and Carl, I love you, should be in the Hall of Very Good. I think Terrell Davis is going to make it because we put in a center, when I was part of it, we put in a center from the Miami Dolphins.
Tom Nalen, you mean it's going to make it?
Tom Nalen, I think, has a legitimate chance when his time comes. But we put in a center from the Miami Dolphins that played only 6 years, had a great run. And Walter Payton had a short career. Not Walter Payton.
Terrell Davis is going to make it.
Yeah. This segment brought to you by Elway's Cadillac in Park Meadows. John Elway's Cadillac, #1 dealership of Cadillacs in Colorado.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Cheers. We got a news break with Molly Hughes. We'll be back with Trending Now in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom. A Colorado rape victim is trending on social media today after challenging President Barack Obama's gun policy at a town hall forum last night. Kimberly Corbin was raped by a man who broke into her apartment back in 2006 while attending the University of Northern Colorado. Since being victimized, she has been an advocate for gun ownership. She's now a mother of 2 young children, and at last night's town hall meeting at George Mason University, she challenged the president's recent executive order. She asked him why he would make it harder for someone like her to own a gun to protect her and her children. President Obama told her that nothing he is proposing would prevent a law-abiding citizen like her from purchasing a gun. He went on to say he's trying to make it more difficult for criminals to buy guns online and at gun shows. Corbin posted on her Twitter account just last night that death threats have come in since sharing her story on TV last night. She says that is exactly why she carries. Corbin's rapist, Ronnie Pieros, was sentenced back in 2007 to 24 years to life in prison.
This is a sports show, one of our favorite guests, one of our favorite segments, trending now, and I'll let him introduce himself because he needs no introduction from me.
Hi, my name is Hugh Johnson. I'm a digital sports producer with the Denver Post, and this is What's Trending Now. Hey guys, wanted to get your take on something Troy said earlier, Troy Rink that is. Denver Broncos outside linebacker Demaryius Ware is expected to play come January 17th for the divisional playoff game. Troy said that the Broncos can survive without Demaryius Ware at full strength. Do you agree, especially if the Broncos see the Steelers, in which quarterback Ben Roethlisberger is known for extending plays?
No, I wrote a column a few weeks ago that I thought Demaryius Ware was the missing ingredient because not only his presence on the field, well, let me start with his presence on the field. He takes some pressure off Von Miller. And Von Miller was there. I mean, we've talked about Chris Harris and everything. I saw ESPN said Von Miller's their best player, but he just gets overwhelmed, and he has to work for everything he does. He had 21 hits this year, but I think Demaryius Ware had a great season going because they were emphasizing Von Miller. I think they need him at full strength. I think Shane Ray's okay. Shaquille Barrett played well at times this year against Cleveland and a couple other games, but I think they need him. But the second part of that is they need a leader on defense, and he was that leader coming into the season and early in the season, particularly in September when he was named the defensive player of the month.
I don't disagree with anything you said there, but I will add this, and it's not the most optimistic thing I can say. Like Peyton Manning, if you're an old beat-up player, a 16-game season plus the playoffs is too long to play, and Demaryius Ware will not make a major impact in the playoffs.
All right. Woody, you mentioned Von Miller, and that's interesting because earlier this year, Jack Del Rio said Khalil Mack was more talented and physical than Von Miller in advance of a game between the Broncos and the Raiders. Today, it was announced that Mack was selected for the All-Pro team at 2 positions, becoming the first player to do so. Does this sort of validate Del Rio's point?
Having watched Mack against the Broncos in that last game, it was like he was at 2 positions. How can it be? He's over there. Wait. He's over there. I mean, he was playing both inside and outside linebacker. I assume that's the 2 positions he got it at. Mack is a great player, and so you have to support Mark Kiszla's contingent. I looked again today at the salary cap numbers. Jacksonville and Oakland are going to have more salary cap than anybody, no matter where Oakland plays. Mack, I'm still in love with Von Miller. And John Elwyn and I, and I'll just end this because it's an ongoing argument we've always had, that I wanted the Broncos to pick Patrick Peterson. He was named to every All-Pro team. He is, no matter what the grades are about Chris Harris, he's the best quarterback, I think, in the league. So that debate will forever, I think they'll both get in the Hall of Fame someday if they keep playing the way they are. But at this point, I'd rather, in a playoff game, I'd rather have Von Miller.
In Von Miller's defense, Von Miller was also first-team All-Pro at least one of Mack's positions, outside linebacker. And I'm going to let you go, but on your way out, I just want to mention, to irritate him, that the All-Pro offensive tackle was Joe Thomas, a player the Broncos should have traded for.
I heard the Broncos this week, before you go, because you're a good sounding board for us, I heard the Broncos talking this week about, we're playing for right now.
If you're playing for right now, Joe Thomas, that'll be on the team.
Should be on your team.
Yeah. I mean, that's coming from coaches there. We're concerned about right now. Well, you weren't concerned about right now about 5-6 weeks ago. That was such a tragic mistake. I worry about next year. I personally, with my health in my life, I worry about right now too. I'll worry about next year. Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you. Guys, that was Trending Now. My name is Hugh Johnson.
How did they get a hold of you on Twitter?
Oh, well, I'm about to explain.
Let the man's flow go, man.
You can find me on Twitter at Hugh Johnson DP, and thanks for joining us.
Check out Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic because sexual issues, except for Hugh Johnson, can be symptoms of other more serious conditions like diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, high blood pressure, prostate issues, stress, obesity, and a variety of other issues that can lead to major sexual problems and major health problems. They have a diagnostic ultrasound, testosterone, and PSA testing, all to get you back in business. It's not just sexual health, people. It's total health. RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, 720-440-7900.
Is a lack of intimacy at home starting to affect your performance on the course? There are many factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol that may be contributing to your erectile dysfunction. Get back in the game with one visit to Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, offering same-day solutions for all erectile dysfunction and premature issues. And you get to try the medications containing FDA ingredients right in their office. Let the providers at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic help you get your confidence back. And be sure to ask about the $99 limited time special. Call today.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Speaking of special segments, I like 4 on the Floor every day. We keep it to 30 seconds. We each get that time. We start with the Rockies, which is unusual, but they're in the national news, reportedly chasing Geraldo Parra. And Patrick Saunders wrote about that. He wrote, "Does this mean the end for Cargo if he signs?" I genuinely believe that the Rockies are out marketing Cargo if they could get a starter and a reliever. Do you agree with that? Is it the end? Do you think that Parra could take over?
We know Parra because Parra came up with the D-backs last year. He was in the he played for Baltimore and Milwaukee, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
He's can hit. In Coors Field, he's probably a 300 hitter, but he's not
291, I think, last year.
Yeah, but he's not going to have power numbers regardless of where he plays. But I do agree with you that the Rockies are trying to trade Cargo, hopefully for quality pitching.
I would just add that Parra's name came up 2 or 3 years ago at spring training. Before he went to the Diamondbacks, the Rockies were trying to get him.
Let's play the if game. If Tom Brady had been suspended for 4 games, what would the AFC playoffs look like right now?
That's an interesting question. I haven't heard that come up nationally. I think that they'd be in the same place. I think that that if he hadn't played, they might have lost 1 or 2 games. I think they would have probably won the Miami game because they would have needed it so badly. I think they would have been the number 2 seed with or without Brady if he hadn't played in those 4 games.
As long as they're playing ifs and buts, if he had been suspended 4 games, they wouldn't have had one of the first 2 seeds. They would have had to play this weekend, and if they played this weekend as beat up as they are now, as long as we're playing the ifs game, they'd be done.
Beyonce has joined Coldplay for the halftime show. Now, has that gotten your attention?
Yes, it does. Nothing against Chris Martin of Coldplay, but I'd rather watch Beyonce sing than Chris Martin play the piano.
I happen to like Coldplay. Yeah. I think they should have played in New York.
Because it was cold?
Another one laughing.
Yes. Yeah, I got your pun there, Dad.
It was not a pun. I wanted also frozen, is it ice monkeys or frozen monkeys?
Arctic monkeys.
Somewhere. I would have liked that.
I'm here to help my dad.
Yeah. I think Beyonce, for J.A. Dondi's sake and a lot of other people's, adds another dimension. I'd like to see him bring back Katy Perry, too.
Yesterday was National Bobblehead Day. What bobblehead would you like to have, Woody Paige?
You?
Me?
I would like to have it. I'd flick it like this in the press box.
Do I really look that way?
Yeah. I would. The only other one I'd like to have is I'd like to have a Babe Ruth bobblehead. And I've never seen a Babe Ruth bobblehead. I think he was he made the game of baseball I think there should be. The Rockies give away gnomes and elves and stuff like that. Why don't you give away a series to draw people to the stadium this year of the greatest players of all time? Give us 9 of the greatest players of all time.
My favorite athlete of all time is Muhammad Ali, so give me a Muhammad Ali bobblehead, please. Thank you.
Four on the Floor is sponsored by Citywide Banks, a family-owned Colorado-focused, there never was one, you think? A Colorado-focused business bank with 12 locations across Denver and Boulder. My favorite bank in town because they are local people and they're your neighbors. Over 25 services that businesses need. So small or big, you can go there and they will support you. They also are a passionate supporter of more than 150 Colorado charities each year. That's Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
At Citywide Banks,
we put you first by exceeding your service expectations every day.
Every day.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Mark Kiszla, Woody Paige. If you liked Hugh Johnson's appearance, you're going to like Madison Faulkner's appearance. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but here's Madison's mailbag.
Awesome, guys. So our first tweet is from J.M. Bouchard, and he wants to know, wrestling match between Rob Gronkowski and J.J. Watt. Who wins?
That's my favorite question I've ever gotten on this show. Wow! I'm going with the Gronk because I think Gronk would get dirty. I think Gronk would gouge eyes. I think Gronk would do whatever's necessary to win.
All of those Gronk brothers used to wrestle at home. Their father was a guy, and they would wrestle.
Yeah.
And there's another one coming along that's going to be in the draft this year. But give me J.J. Watt with one caveat.
What?
He gets that axe that he uses. It's an axe match.
Okay.
He's got the axe and he's chopping wood.
I would pay to watch that, though.
Yeah.
I would.
Great question, Jay.
All right, and then our second question is from Axis Anvil Fist, and he wants to know, Manning has an abysmal record coming off of buys, so why would the Broncos start him over Brock?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to let Mr. Paige answer because he's the champion of the old quarterback here.
That's a little bit misleading. Not buys during the regular season. I'm going to say that whoever
he's got 9 one and dones. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what he's talking about.
The reason why he has 9 one and dones is he's been a number 1 or number 2 seed every year.
There you go.
He's
a great regular season quarterback. You are correct.
That he's surrounded mostly by bad talent.
Okay.
I think that most of those, if you were to notice, he's lost games in Indianapolis, but most of those have been in cold weather.
Yeah.
I think cold weather does affect him. I looked at the weather today.
Yeah.
It's going to be between 35 and 40 next Sunday.
Good
it won't
for
be snowing.
Peyton. I mean, the decision is done. They didn't do what I asked them to do, as they so often fail to do what I ask them. They're like my kids. I tell them what to do, and they say, sure, and then they do whatever they want.
Thank you, Madison.
Thanks, guys.
John L.A. Cadillac of Park Meadows, as my mother always said to me, son, you're nothing if you don't have a Cadillac. Well, guess what? I'm nothing, but the Cadillac, John L.A. Cadillac has talked to me about putting me in one of those nice Eldorados. We'll be back.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
It's time to pick the Wildcard weekend games. Let's start with the Chiefs at the Texans.
I have gone back and forth on this. I'm going to pick the Texans with my head, not my heart. The Chiefs, when I look at it, of their 10-game winning streak, only 2 of those games came against winning teams, Broncos and the Steelers. Both the Broncos and the Steelers in those games had injured quarterbacks. The Chiefs are bad on third down. That's a bad third down team because their quarterback throws short passes all the time. So when they're 3rd and 8 or higher, they're completing 6-yard passes. They're not very good in the red zone. I think the secondary of the Texans, I told you earlier, is a very good secondary. J.J. Watt, I think Brian Hoyer is going to come up good in this game, playing at home in a dome that eliminates Kansas City's crowd and what they are able to do in cold weather at home. Give me the Texans.
I hate to do this, but I'm going to agree with you. I think the Chiefs and the Steelers are both the better teams. The wild card teams are the better teams in this weekend for the AFC, but I don't think both can go on the road and win. I think Houston is the harder place to win at. I think this will be a low scoring game. First team to score a touchdown will win the game, and I'll go with the Texans.
Pitt and Cincy in Cincinnati.
I don't think this is going to be easy for Pittsburgh either, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will be the Denver Broncos' opponent on January 17th. I think Ben Roethlisberger to Antonio Brown is the most electric connection in the NFL, and give me Pittsburgh by a touchdown.
It's been said of McCarron that in the games he's started, he's thrown 6 touchdown passes and no interceptions. Mm-hmm. Well, the game he came into, he threw 2. So that's a little misleading.
That's a little misleading.
And it's a little bit misleading when you got to add in that he fumbled a snap that actually just handed the game to the Denver Broncos. I don't think the Cincinnati crowd, as I've told you, is that strong a home crowd. They both know how to play in cold weather. I'd take Ben Roethlisberger over A.J. McCarron every day.
Seattle. My Seattle Seahawks versus the Minnesota Vikings in sub-zero weather, perhaps.
I can't twist my mind or my mouth to say Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to agree with you for the last half of the season. The Seattle Seahawks will go in there. People are talking about Adrian Peterson versus Marshawn Lynch. In cold weather games I've covered, you covered some cold ones. In Green Bay, and I covered one in Cincinnati that was arguably the coldest or second coldest. And in those games, the passing attack was the difference because the receivers know where they're going. They have these gloves now. Quarterbacks have these gloves. Russell Wilson has bigger hands than Teddy Bridgewater. Did you know that?
I did not.
I think the Seahawks win a very close, low-scoring game.
I do think the Seahawks will have difficulty in this game, despite the fact that I think they are the Super Bowl favorites in my mind. But here's the deal. Seattle's defense is still pretty darn good, and what I admire what Minnesota has done this year. I admired Minnesota when they played in Denver early in the season, but you get ahead of Minnesota and you take Adrian Peterson, their best weapon, off the field. And I think Seattle will limit the number of touches that Peterson gets and win the game as a result.
Let me add something for you. The opening in the Seattle Seahawks defense, which has got its mojo back, is intermediate passes, the 10 to 15 yard range passes. That's where Bridgewater fails. He throws short passes and he throws a lot of long passes, but he doesn't throw the intermediate pass, the middle range pass. That's going to be a difference in the game. I think the closest, toughest game to call. The line has moved from Washington being favored by 1, Green Bay's now. You know, those people who like the Dallas Cowboys and the smart guys have now pushed Packers into a 1-point betting favorite. Who do you like?
I don't like either one of these teams, to tell you the truth. I don't like Green Bay or Washington. I think that whoever wins this game is going to lose in the next round and quite possibly lose badly. I can't believe I'm doing this. I like Kirk Cousins in college. I stuck with him when he stunk early in his Redskins career. I know he's going up against Aaron Rodgers. I'm going with the Redskins.
I'm going with Washington, too.
What?
Kirk Cousins in the last 3 games has thrown 11 touchdowns without picks. When he threw
How do you like that?
When he threw picks early in the season, he was a bad quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's now protecting the ball better. They're also playing lousy teams. I'm going to give you 2 things. They haven't beaten a winning team all year long.
I knew that, and that's what made me pause.
But the Green Bay Packers are not very good. And the only reason why you'd pick the Packers, anybody would pick the Packers, one guy. He's not playing as good as Kirk Cousins. They're not playing in Green Bay. He has struggled. He struggled at home against the Minnesota Vikings. They lost the game. It's not going to be a Hail Mary pass. Another somewhat low-scoring game. Here's what the key to the game is. Alfred Morris, one of Mike Shanahan's guys, hasn't had a great year, but the Green Bay Packers are bad against the running game. So I think that Morris is going to have a big game. Washington playing home has won 6 of their last 7 games at home. You and I agree on Washington. This segment sponsored by John Elway Cadillac of Park Meadows.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Hello, my name is Greg Stone, President and General Manager, and I would like to personally thank you for making Cooney Lexus of Greenwood Village the #1 Lexus dealer in Colorado.
Cooney Lexus of Greenwood Village for exceptional customer service and world-class amenities. Take in the beauty of the Rocky Mountains from our rooftop patio. Relax while enjoying a movie in our premium theater. This is the ultimate luxury car buying experience. Visit Cooney Lexus of Greenwood Village or Cooney Lexus of Colorado Springs. Click CooneyLexus.com.
Sports Show. Woody Paige, Mark Kiszla. It's time to pick 6. Woody Paige, pick the 6 best coaches in the NFL playoffs.
You know, this might have been a better question than the 6 worst coaches.
Which coach don't you trust?
Yeah. Number 6, Gary Kubiak. And people in Denver go, well, really? Yeah,
that's why I just go, really? After all the grief you've given Coobs?
No, but if you look at the field...
Yeah.
If you look at the field, Gary Kubiak, as an assistant coach, as a coordinator, has gotten to a lot of AFC championships. He has won 3 Super Bowls with San Francisco and everything. I think he's like Wade Phillips. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. I think that as a result of that, when I look at all of them, he's 6th best because I think he can get to an AFC conference championship. Number 5 would be Andy Reid. Andy Reid has played in, did you realize this? He's played in 5 or 6 NFC championship games.
He's a heck
He
of a
has
coach.
been to 1 Super Bowl where they lost. Andy Reid turned this season around, I think. When they lost Jamal Charles, he actually stood up and took blame for the loss to the Broncos. He turned that team around. He's 5th best. And you go, well, how can he be 5th best? Well, Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl. He's been in 2 Super Bowls. Mike McCarthy turned over the offensive play calling to Tom Clements, and then he grabbed it back and said, let me do this. They're having a bad year, but my guys have to win Super Bowls to be better than Kubiak and Reid. Mike Tomlin has won a Super Bowl, maybe 2 Super Bowls.
And you never know when he might come off the bench to tackle somebody.
So I want guys that have experience in Super Bowls and winning Super Bowls. Number 2 would be Pete Carroll. I don't know. He's sometimes overlooked in the big picture.
The ball off.
Despite that, last 2 Super Bowls, you got to say it. Number 1, Bill Belichick. He's won 4 Super Bowls. He's been in 2 other Super Bowls. Like him or not, he's the best coach in the playoffs.
Our lists are different, and I like that. Number 6 for me is Bill O'Brien in Houston. And that team got off to a rough start. He was under a lot of pressure, and they won a weak division, but he rallied that team. Number 5, Ron Rivera has the team that's 15-1, and he was named the NFL Coach of the Year 2 years ago. He doesn't get enough love. I agree with you on number 4, Andy Reid. I think he should probably be the Coach of the Year this year. They were 1-5, and then they rallied to make the playoffs. Number 3, somebody you gave a salute to, Mike Tomlin. He's the Steelers coach. He's been a good coach for a long time. Number 2, I don't believe that you left off Bruce Arians of Arizona. I actually think right here, right now, he's the best coach in the league. He's the coach I would most want to play for, but I can't put him above Coach Hoodie. Bill Belichick has too much history as a great coach, so Bill, I give you number 1.
I think those were both strong arguments. So it's been a great week on the show. We want to tell you can watch us on denverpost.com at your leisure. When you want to watch us, you can go to our YouTube channel, you can go to our iTunes podcast, you can go to woodypage.com. There are a number of ways to not only watch us, but to be involved by going to our Facebook page and seeing what's there. That's the sports show, or you can go find us on Twitter and tweet us at the sports show. And we hope you enjoy the Wildcard weekend. And here's Molly Hughes with the news update.
Hello, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom with a ruling from the Denver coroner's office that will no doubt raise some eyebrows. The Denver medical examiner has ruled that the death of a Denver jail inmate was a homicide. Michael Marshall died back on November 20th after being restrained by sheriff's deputies several days earlier. His death led to protests and outrage and a demand for answers. Today's ruling states that the 50-year-old died from asphyxia due to being physically restrained by law enforcement during an acute psychotic episode. At the time of his death, Marshall was being held on a $100 bond for charges of trespassing and disturbing the peace. He was being held in a special unit for people who have a history of mental illness and violence. Marshall's family says he suffered from mental illness and had been living on the streets at the time of his arrest. City leaders and the sheriff's office called that death a tragedy and promised transparency during the investigation. The family says that has not been the case, though. They've been demanding to see surveillance video of the incident, but say those requests have been denied. The city says the family will be able to see the video after the investigation is complete. With today's ruling, the case will now be turned over to the district attorney's office to determine if criminal charges will be filed against the 6 sheriff's deputies involved. Those 6 deputies have been on restricted duty since the November incident and have been barred from having contact with inmates.